Mr. Muhammad Faki, if you can tell the world what role you played in the killing of Idris Deby, then most of us will keep quiet. These are not mere allegations. The history now shows you are part of the game that has now taken the rebels to Qatar, of where you are paid huge amounts of money from Qatar to facilitate the rebels, as are using our offices of African Union to send the rebels to Qatar in Doha to discuss the peace process of Chad. And yet you are not able to resolve the conflict in Khartoum, which has now come out and destroyed property, killed people, and the humanitarian catastrophe still increases in Khartoum. You are culpable. I've sent you that letter. I've explained the Banjul Protocol, the Malabo Protocol. All of them have been explained. I'm a Ugandan. My forefathers who founded this nation of Uganda were freedom fighters who brought African Union. Know it, your father. My founding fathers, my president, and of course the president of Chad, the founding father of the Chad Republic, they founded this African Union. It is not a personal property. But you have turned it into a personal property and a cash cow for you to give, donate, dish out money to your friends, dish out money, positions, assignments to people you love. But the people who criticize you have never been given an assignment, and you don't want any criticism in this African Union. You have now destroyed the African Union. You have killed the African Union, the same organization that is supposed to unite Africans. Mr. Secretary General or Mr. Chairperson of African Union, when did you realize that there are resolutions that the African heads of state have made resolution upon resolutions that African Union should not recognize the International Criminal Court, and that we should move in mass, collectively, withdraw right to African states that are in the ICC to withdraw? Do you have those resolutions? Yes or no? Have you forwarded them to the international community, telling people we shall reinforce our African Court of Justice that will try our people of crimes against humanity? Why have you left us in a state of abeyance that has caused the chaos that we see right now on the streets of Khartoum, Omdurman City, Maroa, and other places in Sudan? You are responsible for having not directed the world, the African Union, on what they should do with ICC cases. Everywhere in Africa, you have a legal department which have advised African states that ICC is not a state jurisdiction where you take your cases. ICC acts as a complementarity status. ICC cannot usurp the powers of the people of Sudan and take their people when they have a court that sentences people with crimes of that nature. I therefore ask one question. Why have you been part and parcel? Why have you been a conduit of dismembering Sudan, of dismembering Libya? The same has happened to Libya. You have allowed your cronies, the French, to annex Libya and stay with the government in Benghazi. At the same time, you play a role of staying with the government in Tripoli. Where do you stand on the Libyan issue? Where do you stand on the DRC issue? Where do you stand on Khartoum issue? Where do you stand on the question of our neighbors from the Gulf states? The Gulf states, namely Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, through Egypt and the other states, the Turkey, how did they come to monopolize, to take over Africa, to take over North Africa? Who is bringing them to our continent to create the chaos that we see that is running from the Atlantic to Red Sea? Where did we go wrong? I therefore submit that the root causes of the current crisis in Sudan are clear. ICC indictments. Whether you can go to Angel Gabriel and come back, if you don't resolve the ICC indictments, if we don't read and write to the international community, tell the Secretary General of the United Nations Security Council to defer the indictments, to allow a smooth transition from a military administration to civilian administration, with a deferral under Article 39 and 40 of the United Nations Charter, that the indictments of Sudan are an impediment to the peace that we see in the region. If we don't do that, this will not work. Any maneuvers that you are trying to patch General Dagla and General Burhan, both of them were commanders under General Bashir, is useless. It can't work. The only way peace can return to Sudan, whether through IGAD, whether through UN, is to remove the indictments that were placed on the general and allow General Bashir to be tried in Khartoum, where the people who allege that he committed crimes can see the justice that we want in Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, my letter can be found on my website, www.panafricanforumltd.com. You can read it extensively, quoting all the articles, all the sections, all the law, the international law, and the approach of how we can deal with the Sudan issue without going into all this circus and the fracas of uncoordinated incompetency, corruption that Morocco has brought in our African Union. Before I end, I would like to say, one of the things that has made me very angry for the last 7 years is how Morocco and Total Oil brought dollars and the cash and the paid delegations to vote for Chad instead of Kenya. It was a very shameful experience for me as a man who doesn't like corruption, who hates corruption, who abhors corruption. I did not feel comfortable that I should be part and parcel and attend any of these meetings as long as Mr. Muhammad Faki is the chairperson of African Union. I rest my case. You can read that letter. And I call upon IGAD, AU, UN to read my letter carefully and find out if I have not given the advice. That is my contribution towards the people of Sudan. Less than that, if ICC indictments that are causing arrest amongst the generals, do they hand Bashir or what do they do? If they hand Bashir, the generals were all commanders of Janjaweed, which is accused in the main text of Bashir case. So how will you hand over your general, yet you are the commander in the armed forces of the same which is being accused, which actually killed allegedly the people in Darfur? If you can answer that question, whether you're a foreign minister of which country, whether you say you claim you to be what, if you can answer for me, I'll be very happy. But peace cannot be achieved without a solution to the indictments of the ICC against Bashir and the rest in Sudan. Sudan can try Mr. Bashir under the Sudanese law. There is enough courts, enough room, enough punishment in Sudan that can resolve the conflict without airlifting their generals. That is the main focus, the main root cause why there is fighting on the streets of Khartoum. I rest my case. Thank you. That's my takeaway.